Well, as I always say, Mondays are usually the most boring day starting the week. However, for today's episode, we're going to be reviewing two events that happened this past Sunday. The first one is ChocoPro's much recent event in Ichigaya Square, number 488. Now, remember, I recently reviewed the much delayed 485, which is, of course, the 30th anniversary of Emi Sakura. So, we're coming off from that. So, we have some very interesting matches involving. And, of course, we move on with day three of Stardom's round robin tournament, the Goddesses of Stardom Tag League. Now, there are some matches involved. We are involving, of course, three matches involving, of course, the Red Goddesses block, and then we have a non tournament match, and then finally, of course, two of the Blue Goddesses. And of course, the main event features Mega Bane and Hanako taking on, of course, the members of God's Eye, Lady C, and Ami Sori, which is going to be a lot of fun. And then, as always, we'll wrap up our episode with some news updates to give you guys updates on what's been happening in the world of wrestling, such as what events the promotions are throwing out, who's booked, what matches are set, including developments that are happening in the world of wrestling as we speak. So, let's get ready for another episode of Deleted Wrestle Zone.
Are you ready? Get up, get up! 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 Get up, get up!
Hey everyone, welcome to Deleted Wrestle Zone, all things that is pro wrestling with AEW, NXT, New Japan Pro Wrestling, TNA, the National Wrestling Alliance, various promotions, wrestlers, matches, and championships. I am your host, J Rod here. So, if you are new to the channel, welcome. This is a channel we do a lot of pro wrestling reviews from various promotions, not only here in the United States, but also in Japan, Mexico, Canada, Europe, the UK. Anywhere in pro wrestling is not as big, but it continues to grow. We also, of course, do discussion videos, talk about various topics such as the wrestlers themselves, the promotions, factions, storylines, whatever we want to talk about. We also, of course, do more news updates. If certain information has been unable to be on this episode, we can either put it on the next one or on a separate video by itself. We also, of course, do real-time news updates to keep you guys on alert if something has happened in the world of wrestling that needs to be addressed ASAP. We also, of course, got the Unagi Sayaka Watch and various other cool wrestling content as well. So if you like what you see, please subscribe to us and click on that subscribe button. You'll be getting a lot of daily reviews and other cool wrestling content as well. But if you like this episode, please give us a like on the like button or a nice comment in the description down below. Now, enough of the jibber jabbers. Let's get started. So, our first review, let's begin with ChocoPro. Okay, ChocoPro number 488. Now, this is their much recent show, as you know, that came out. Now, if you guys saw the much recent episodes, I did 485, which is delayed, in case anybody asked. This was, of course, happened because whenever they do a big show, they always wait a couple of days to, of course, edit and then upload it on their channel. But this is their much recent one that took place this past Sunday, number 488. Now, as always, we have Balin Aki opening up the show, greeting the fans, giving the info what's happening on the entire event. Now, our first match, we have, of course, tag team action. We have Irikani and Transam Hiroshi, which was very interesting because if you guys ever seen one of the previous matches they had together as singles match, well, they did a little opera singing, and I thought it was pretty interesting. And I would never imagine those two teaming up. However, they had to face against Kaho Hiromi and Hagane Shino. But what's interesting is, for those who know Antonio Honda, in the past he used to have a guitar and he likes to play something just to calm everything down. I don't know what Hagane Shino was doing. I don't know if he asked Honda for permission to use the guitar, because of course you got to be more careful when it comes to Trans Am Hiroshi, because he's the kind of guy who sings during his matches. I mean, I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but it leads to a distraction. And trust me, he's been known to do that time and time again. The first time I ever saw it is when he got everybody to sing "We Will Rock You," but this is during the COVID-19 times. But it was a lot of fun. Not gonna lie about that. But however, the match, of course, many of you would have thought in some capacity in this match that Kaho would have been the most logical choice to lose the match, because, of course, she's less experienced, very small. But apparently that did not happen. But we did see, of course, where both Hiroshi and, of course, Iri decided to do a little singing and all of that. And, of course, that did not do any well, because Hagen had played along. Somehow he got involved doing the whole shit. Kyle was like, "What the hell are you doing?" But Hagen got it done when he, of course, applied a standing moonsault on Irikani. And just like that, 1, 2, 3, done. Now, our next match, we have an interesting 6-person tag team match. We have Hiroya Yawada, Sayaka Obihiro, and Balinaki. They take on Minoru Fujita, Soy, and Miya Yatsuba. Now, of course, you can see certain factors of the match. Like, you can tell that Hiroya Yawada, who has yet to pick up her big win, is in the match. Most likely will take the fall. But you look at cohesion. Now, you look at Soy and Miya. They are not yet the biggest tag team, just like the Best Bros and a few others, but they're getting there, you know? And that always plays out in a good factor in this matter. And one thing I always like is about how cohesion tag teams could be. In this matter, we did see, of course, Miya and Soy were able to coexist and able to pin Hiroyi at the same time. Soy applied a body splash onto her, and then, of course, Miya applied a jackknife, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, done. So that's how things end. Now, our main event is a very interesting one. The 4th generation girls are in face-to-face together. If you guys don't know who I'm referring to, I'm talking about Chiko Shikawa and Sayaka. Now, some of you may question, why did I call them the 4th generation girls? For many of you who may not know this about them, they were trained by Emi Sakura, and they were in fact in the same class together. But of course, we all see how different they are from each other. She's been known as the too much energy. She uses too much energy in order to get around her matches, and she gets a bit frustrated whenever she doesn't win her matches. But she always has that look on her face when she screams that she finally did it, you know, that she won. Sayaka, you know, she may have not been one of the best, but she's grown so much, and she had this look where she smiled, but at the same time, she's starting to develop a little bit of violence into her caressing craft, and that's great. And not to mention, Sayaka is now, of course, one half of the Asian Dream Tag Team Champions with Makoto, and that says it out. So the real question is, who out of these two can outdo each other? And that's always been the factor, because, like I said, they were part of the same class together. And it's always been one of those things we've seen in Yoshi Wrestling. If you guys, or in wrestling in Japan, more specifically, if you guys were from the same class, you try to find out who was better than the other. And that kind of sets it up right there. I mean, you guys seen how she is. She runs very fast and does this. Sayaka, well, she throws it. She doesn't back down from any fight whatsoever. But in the end, Sayaka was able to overturn this one and pick up a win. And just like that, 1, 2, 3, over. Now, for our Jonkin tournament, well, this one ended, of course, very interesting. At first, we got to the finals that feature Soy and Sayaka. Now, in the back of my mind, because of course, when you play Jonkin, which is rock, paper, scissors, it's unpredictable who's going to win. But I would have assumed Sayaka would have won, because in some capacity, certain moments, when you already won a match, you somehow win the Jonkin tournament. Well, that did not go in exactly like I would have hoped for because Soy was the one who got away with it. So she picked up the win with the chocolate, and just like that, it was over. So it was a pretty good show, and we are expecting another ChocoPro show real soon, so stay tuned for that. But as of right now, we are officially done with ChocoPro. Let's move on with Stardom. Okie dokie. Day 3 of Stardom's Goddesses of Stardom Tag League. And this is their much recent event that they had, of course, this past Sunday. And it was at the Kisei Bunka Hall in Matsumoto, Nagano, Japan. So this is their newest one, in case anybody asks. And we continue with more of the Goddesses Tag League. Now, our first match, we have Mi Vida Loca, consistent of Akira Kurigani and Bozilla. They take on Yuna Mizumori and Mei Sita. Now, of course, both Yuna Mizumori and Mei Sita, as you know, they are a makeshift team. They're not actually in a good cohesion at this point, but they were able to pick up a good win in day 1. However, in day 2, they haven't. And as for Mi Vida Loca, well, let's just say they have not had the best of luck whatsoever. I mean, first day they just had a non-tournament match and they lost, and the first official match, well, they lost this time. But the real question is, can they pull it off? I mean, look, it's no secret about Bozilla. She's strong, powerful. She is even willing to go to distance. And that's exactly what she did when she applied a running power bomb onto Mei Sita. And just like that, 1, 2, 3, done. And they get their first 2 points. But as for Mei Sita and Yuna Mizumori, they still remain at 2 because of that one win. Now, our next match, we have DLM, which is Osita and Teolek, those luchadoras from Mexico. It's actually Hazuki and Kokuma. Shh. They face, of course, EXV members, Rian and Waka Tsukiyama. Now, of course, if you guys ever seen DML, they actually go the distance to throw in a bit of aggressiveness towards their opponent, and that's exactly what they're doing. But unfortunately, Waka ended up on the wrong side of the super kick, knocking her out, and just like that, of course, Teoleko actually pinned her. 1, 2, 3, done. And as for that, of course, DML retained with the total points of 4, while, of course, Rian and Waka are still in the bottom with 0. Now, our last match involving the Red Goddesses, we have Miku Kane and Siri. They take on God's Eye members Rana Yagama and Hina. Now, obviously, for those who know this, we know that in the last, in day 2, Miku Kane and Siri finally got their first win. And as for, of course, Rana Yagami and Hina, they haven't. But, of course, many of you would have assumed in some capacity that that God's Eye would pick up the win. They did, because once again, of course, Suri decided to give a little bit of the reins to Miku Kane, and this is something that Yuna Mizumori questioned her in day 1, and that's exactly what happened, because apparently she ended up being in the modified jackhammer by, of course, Hina, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, God's Eye picked up the win. Now, our next match is a trios 3-way match. Team number 1, we have Stars with Momokoko, Saida, and B. Priestley versus the Cosmic Angels, Sayaka Kurara, Aya Sakura, our current New Blood Tag Team Champions, along with Natsupoi. They face also Hate, consistent of Rina, Konami, and Saya Kamitani. Now, of course, it's no secret when it comes to Hate. We know how they operate. They like to cheat their way through. They like to toss their opponents through the chairs, to soften them up in order to bring a bit of pain to them so they can pick up the win. Now, you would have assumed that that tactic would have played out pretty well. But however, it did not do Hate any justice, because in the end, it was Saida who picked up the win onto Konami. And just like that, 1, 2, 3, it's over. However, here's the thing that also interesting. I wouldn't be surprised over this. Hida, in fact, pinned Konami Konami is a double champion. She is the current artist, 1/3 of the artist champions with Rina and Fukigen Death. Oh, and of course, she is the white belt champion. Now, I wouldn't be surprised because I know Ami Sourei defeated her and issued herself as the next challenger. And I wouldn't be surprised if Hida, let's say maybe if somehow Konami or Ami Sourei win the championship, she cashes her opportunity. I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case, but we'll just have to wait and see. Now, our next match, we have, of course, O2 Line, consistent of Miyu Amasaki and Azumi of Neo Genesis. They take on God's Eye, Saki Kashima, and Shuri. Now, of course, much of this match, well, let's just say Saki, for those who know her, you know how she operates, how she acts. She's a bit of lazy, but sometimes she could try to get the job done when it feels the right opportunity. Now, I'm not saying she's sneaky. I'm not saying she's dirty. I mean, she was those things when she was with Oedo Tai until she got kicked out. But she rather not do the hard work. She's trying to do the much easy work that feels like it. And not to mention Shuri tried to encourage her, say, "You got this, girl. You got this." But of course, Saki sometimes likes to doubt herself. But in the end, she didn't have to do anything because it was Shuri that picked up the win when she applied her submission called the Bayako onto Amasaki. And just like that, 1, 2, 3, it was over. And then we did see a post-match promo with Shuri and Saki being it. I have no idea what she said, but I'm sure, as you probably know, she is preparing herself for her biggest challenge at Wrestle Kingdom, defending the IWGP Women's Championship against Kamitani. But I'm sure she also is thinking about hoping that if she wins this entire tournament, she will love to become tag team champion with Saki Kashima, which is something that Kashima wants. But we'll just wait and see what happens. Now, our main event, we have Hanako and Mega Bane taking on the members of God's Eye, consistent of Lady C and Ami Sourei. They're known as Riara Tokyo Towers. Many of you may not know this. Over time, Lady C, of course, teamed up with her, and they did so well together, and they have disbanded on a few occasions. But when Tag League came around, it kind of became like a permanent thing for them because, of course, they actually got along great. But one thing it's also interesting for many of you that know this, that Lady C in the beginning, for a while, when Hanako first came around back in 2023, she teamed up with Lady C, and Lady C, who at the time was the tallest girl in the roster, now Hanako is the one who outbeated her. So it's interesting to see those two started out as tag team and now they're opposite side. But the one thing they had to be more careful is knowing that Megan Bane is a much stronger competitor, and that's exactly what she's capable of. But in the end, it was Hanako with the JP coaster on Lady C, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, it's over, and they got the total points of 4, currently undefeated. However, Hanako decided to give themselves a tag team name because they did not have one, and they decided to call themselves a different name. This is what, of course, Hanako said. She called Megan Bane the Megasis, and of course, people called Hanako as the Skyscraper. So she decided, how about we call ourselves Mega Skyscrapers? And of course, it stuck with it. So that is their new tag name. So basically, Hanako and Megan Bane are known as the Mega Skyscrapers. And I thought it was a pretty good name. So we'll see how things roll out from there. But as of right now, we'll end things here with Stardom. We're officially done with our reviews. Let's move on with some news updates. Alright, so welcome to our news updates. As always, let's begin with upcoming events. Many of you have already know this. We have the Jersey Championship Wrestling, known as Home for the Holidays, taking place on the 23rd of November. Another match has been announced. We have Carl Fredrickson. He takes on Joshua Bishop. And then, of course, finally, we have West Coast Pros Winter Wonder Slam. They'll take place on December 19th. 3 matches have been announced. 2 of them are championship matches. The first one is for the West Coast Pro World Championship. Vinny Masario defends it against, of course, Timothy Thatcher. Now, remember, recently there was a possibility if he lost it, this would not happen. But turns out from the last event, he retained the belt. So it's going to happen. And then, of course, we have the West Coast Pro Women's World title. Johnny Robbie will defend it against Gypsy Mac. I don't know who she is, but yes, she's mentioned. And then finally, we have Alan Angels taking on Jaya Jewel. So that's pretty much it for upcoming events. Now to some developments. Many of you know this guy, or many who don't. Galeno Del Mal. Many of you may not know who he is. He is the little brother, or should I say the little big brother of Hijo de Dr. Wagner Jr. Yes, the same Dr. Wagner Jr. you guys been seeing in AAA and WWE and NXT on a few times. So this is his little brother. Now, there's been reports saying that he has signed with WWE and AAA. Ed was unaware of this. Now, for those who were not aware, Galeno Del Mal was working in Noah, the same thing that his brother did, and he graduated, and now he's going with AAA and that, so he signed with AAA and WWE. So it's no surprise that there is the possibility we could see these two brothers be in singles actions or possibly tag team. So we'll see how that rolls up from there. Now, as you all know, recently there's been talking about the final opponent for Tanahashi. Now, that has already been revealed about Okada. But there were people who were talking they would love to see Shinsuke Nakamura face Tanahashi at Wrestle Kingdom. Now, however, Shinsuke said he's always open to the idea, but the problem is the ball was in the court of WWE, and apparently the deal did not go through. And this is what Shinsuke Nakamura had to say about that. Nakamura was interested in, well, this was from Dave Meltzer from what he said, but this is what he actually found out. Nakamura was interested in doing it. I don't know what happened. There's a lot of stories around going around. I remember asking about it at the time from WWE, and they said there was no deal. But he does have something in his contract that he can do stuff, but WWE still have to prove it. So yeah. So basically, they could have allowed him to do that, but he was allowed to do stuff in Japan, but it's still unclear what those things. I mean, yes, if y'all know, WWE does have a bit of a relationship with Noah. I mean, we know they're in the past they wanted to build a relationship with New Japan, but of course, New Japan has their own way of how they operate. For many of you who don't understand that section, here's the reason why. WWE likes to treat their entire their product as a sports entertainment. However, New Japan treats their product more like an actual sport, and that's something that, of course, WWE probably would not have them do, but it is what it is. So yeah, we'll learn more if there's anything information about this deal, but let's see. Now, many of you remember that David Otunga. For many who don't remember who he is, let me give you guys a brief detail who he is. David Otunga is a former WWE superstar who is now an attorney. Many of you who may remember him as a wrestler in WWE, he was part of the group known as the Nexus with Wade Barrett and a few others. David Otunga, of course, now is an attorney, but recently he talked about the 1-year non-compete clause that Andrade was in. Now, for many of you who may not are keeping up what's been going on in that side of the world, Andrade was fired from WWE because of a wellness policy. And apparently, what we were told, Andrade said he did not get no compete clause. However, apparently there's a TKO non-compete clause, indicating that he is not allowed to wrestle for a whole year. And here's the bad part, and the part I like to say, and I apologize for my language for people, and I hope I don't get demonetized here. I think it's a load of bullshit coming from WWE, what they're doing. You see, for those who know this, if you're in a non-compete clause, they continue to pay you until the clause is done. However, Andrade is not getting paid for this. And like I said, it's total BS what they're doing. And David Otunga mentioned when he heard about this, he's saying it's unfair because it's not right. Why are you giving a man a 1-year no-compete clause and you're not paying him? It's against the law. But he did state it that if somehow Andrade actually took this to court, the judge will be the one to go in his favor. And that's exactly what he did. However, because of this video that Otunga talked about, some people told him, hey, maybe you should show this to Andrade. And of course he did. And this is what he said regarding about that. Everybody was telling me, hey, you should reach out to Andrade and make sure he should see this. And I said, yeah, actually Andrade probably should see it in my video. And he did. I'll say this. Reached out and we spoke. Can't really get into more of that than that. But I'm just happy that the video and I'm putting out actually help people. They actually helping wrestlers. So yeah, so it seems that whatever these guys are talking about, they're keeping on the wraps. I'm sure Andrade is trying to find a way to maybe have a good attorney that could get him try to take this to court, because like I said, David Otunga is right. We have seen wrestlers who got a non-compete clause are still being paid until it's over. But it's bullshit that, of course, Andrade, who is taking a 1-year non-compete clause, they're not paying him for nothing, you know. And I think it's messed up. And I'm sure many of you are saying, yes, WWE are not, they're not doing things right. You know, look, we know that recently Andrade was fired because he was not happy how things were going from there. But it is what it is. We'll leave things as it is. But for now, if there's anything news about this involving Andrade, and of course if David Otunga is giving him advice, I'll let you guys know. But as of right now, let's call it a day. Well, I hope everybody enjoys this episode. Coming up, as you probably can guess, we are heading to Tuesday. We do have NXT. Now, I haven't decided if I want to do any other reviews, but the problem is I may have, because of my regular work job, well, we'll just see how things will go from there. But as of right now, we'll leave things as it is. But until then, I'll see you guys in the next DWZ time, same DWZ channel. I must bid all of you adieu. So, goodbye, and have a nice day.